Galactic Council humiliated humanity's envoy. Earth activated the Extermination Protocol. The chamber smelled of alien incense and arrogance. Ambassador Ethan Cross stood at the center of the Grand Convocation Hall of the Galactic Council, a colossal structure carved from a hollowed asteroid orbiting the gas giant Vale Prime. 600 alien delegates filled the tiered seats above him, their luminescent eyes fixed downward. He was surrounded on all sides, small and singular beneath the towering obsidian podium where High Counselor Zyrex Thorn presided like a god made flesh. Ethan had been standing for 47 minutes. No one had offered him a seat. That was the first insult. He was a tall man, square-jawed, with close-cropped salt and pepper hair and the kind of stillness that came from having survived 3 wars before diplomacy claimed him. He wore Earth's formal diplomatic uniform, deep navy, silver-trimmed, the pale blue globe of humanity stitched above his heart. He had rehearsed his address for 11 months. He had memorized the names of every species present, the phonetic pronunciation of their honorifics, the dietary taboos of their home worlds. None of that mattered to Zyrex Thorn. The High Counselor was a Vrethian, 7 feet of pale gray skin stretched over a body that moved like liquid. His 4 eyes were the color of old amber. When he finally deigned to look at Ethan, it was the way one looks at mold discovered on bread. The representative of the human collective, Thorn announced to the chamber, not as an introduction but as a punchline. "We have received your formal petition for membership in the Galactic Council. We have reviewed it." A ripple of soft alien laughter moved through the seats. At least 30 distinct species joined in. Some made sounds like water gurgling. Others produced a frequency too low to hear, but Ethan felt it in his back teeth. "And?" Ethan said. Thorn blinked all 4 eyes slowly, a deliberate gesture of Vrethian contempt, equivalent to a yawn. "And we find it charming. The way a child's drawing is charming. Full of ambition. Lacking in substance." More laughter. Ambassador Cross, Thorn continued, rising from his seat to address the chamber rather than Ethan directly, another calculated slight, speaking about him as if he weren't present. "Humanity has existed in space for what, 60 of their years? 60. The Threnosai civilization seated in Section 14 has held council membership for 11,000. The collective of Pale Moons has held it for 30,000. And yet, these short-lived, war-prone, fractious little primates send us a petition. And they want a vote." The laughter this time was louder. Longer. Ethan did not move. He had not moved in 47 minutes, and he did not move now. He let them finish. When the chamber quieted, he spoke. "Are you done?" The silence that followed was immediate and absolute. Thorn's amber eyes narrowed. "I beg your..." "I asked," Ethan said, his voice calm and unhurried, carrying the particular quiet of a man who has stopped needing permission, "if you are done." He reached into the breast pocket of his uniform and removed a small black cylinder, no larger than a stylus. He placed it on the speaking podium before him with a soft, deliberate click. "That device contains a transmission. It was prepared by the United Earth Defense Command approximately 16 hours ago and given to me before I boarded the shuttle to this station. I was instructed to present it only if the Council's response to our membership petition was anything other than approval." He paused. "So, here we are." Thorn stepped forward. "Ambassador, I don't know what kind of theater you think you're performing, but this council does not respond to..." "Please don't," Ethan said. Something in his tone stopped Thorn mid-sentence. Something flat and final, like a door closing. Ethan activated the cylinder. The holographic display unfolded in the center of the chamber, not small, not polite, but vast, filling the vaulted space above all 600 delegates with cold blue light. What appeared first were numbers. Fleet coordinates. And then the images followed. Every delegate present knew what they were looking at. They had spent decades watching humanity's primitive wet chemical rockets and laughing. They had written reports about the species, manageable, the reports said. Pre-threat level. Contained. They were not laughing now. Because what the display showed was not humanity's military from 60 years ago. Humanity had been busy. The Solace-class dreadnoughts appeared first, 47 of them, each 3 kilometers long, assembled in the dark between Neptune and the heliopause where no Council surveillance drone had ever bothered to look. Their hulls were not metal. They were layered in something the Council's own physicists had theorized but never managed to synthesize, reactive graviton plating, which meant conventional weapons would not merely be absorbed, but return to sender at triple velocity. Then came the carrier wings, 212 Harbinger-class vessels, each hosting a complement of autonomous strike units that could operate independently across 17 light minutes without signal lag. Because humanity's AI integration had taken a rather dramatic leap forward in the past decade, and no one had thought to ask. And then, the last image. Not a ship. Not a weapon. A station. Built on the far side of Luna, facing away from Earth, facing outward. The size of a small moon. Bristling with arrays that the Council's analysts would later spend 6 frantic weeks trying to classify. They would eventually settle on a term borrowed from humanity's own war records. Extinction class. The device you're looking at, Ethan said, into the silence of 600 alien species holding their collective breath, is called the Extermination Protocol. It was voted on by the full Earth Parliament 14 months ago. Unanimously. That's the first unanimous vote in Earth's parliamentary history, for reference. We don't agree on much. But we agreed on this. He let that settle. If I do not transmit a specific cancellation code to Earth Command within the next 4 hours, the protocol activates automatically. The first targets are the 17 Council relay stations positioned within human-controlled space stations, I will note, that were placed there without our consent and that your deep scan arrays have been using to map our interior systems. He tilted his head slightly. We noticed. We've known for 9 years. We chose not to mention it until now. High Counselor Zyrex Thorn had gone a color that had no name in any human language. After the relay stations, Ethan continued, the protocol addresses the Council's forward fleet positions in the Kessel Corridor, 14 vessels, mostly Thranosci flagships, currently sitting at what your commanders believe is a safe distance from Earth's detection range. He offered a thin, courteous smile. It isn't. A delegate from Section 3, a Mervathi elder with 8 arms and a ceremonial crest that indicated the highest possible diplomatic rank, raised one of those arms. Ambassador. The translator rendered its voice as deep and measured. What is it that humanity wants? Ethan looked at the elder for a moment. Then he looked at Thorn. What we always wanted, he said. A seat at the table. Full voting membership. Immediate cessation of unauthorized surveillance within 17 light-years of Sol. And a formal apology, on record, in the Council's official minutes, for the 47 minutes I just spent standing in this room while your chairman made jokes. The silence stretched. Thorn's 4 amber eyes moved slowly around the chamber, reading faces, calculating. He was not a stupid being. He had held power for 2 centuries because he understood, with exquisite precision, the exact moment when an argument was no longer an argument. This was that moment. The Council, Thorn said, each word emerging as if it cost him something, will take the petition under immediate formal review. A vote will be scheduled within. Now, Ethan said. Thorn stopped. Vote now, Ethan said. You have a quorum. You have the petition. You have 4 hours before the cancellation window closes. He looked up at the 600 delegates ringing the chamber above him, and when he spoke again his voice was quiet enough that the hall's acoustics had to carry it, which somehow made it louder. I want to be very clear about something. Humanity did not build what you just saw because we are warlike. We built it because every species that ever looked down at us from a high place eventually decided we were something to be managed. We are not something to be managed. We are something to be respected. And if the distinction isn't clear to you yet, check your calendars. You have 4 hours to get clear. The vote took 11 minutes. 603 delegates in favor. 0 opposed. 3 abstentions. The Thranosai bloc, who would spend the next decade pretending the abstentions had been a principled stand rather than paralyzed humiliation. Ethan Cross transmitted the cancellation code at the 3-hour and 52-minute mark. He was given a seat, a proper one, at the main floor, with a placard that read Earth, as the council's newest full member. He sat down, folded his hands on the table, and waited for the next item on the agenda. Outside, 60 million kilometers away, the Solace-class dreadnoughts turned quietly in the dark. Patient. Watchful. Ready. Earth had waited long enough to be invited to the galaxy's table. It had simply neglected to mention that it had built its own.